There's an old saying, and you can see it on my screen. It says, history is a set of lies agreed upon. That statement is attributed to Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, I'm not sure whether he actually said that or not, but they attribute that to him. And I think that statement is very appropriate for what we see in academia today, and particularly for what we see in the conscious community today. All right? There's another phrase that's called generally accepted assumptions, very similar to lies agreed upon. What are these things? I'll give you an example. Did you know that on an academic level, on a collegiate level, it is still taught to this day that Christopher Columbus discovered America? With all the information that we have today, with the advent of the internet and the plethora of information that shows us otherwise, as well as common sense and logic that tells you that you cannot discover a land that's already inhabited somehow, because academia does not want to acknowledge the truth. They don't want to own up to the atrocities that they committed against the Native Americans. So rather, what they do is they'll say that Columbus discovered America. And the academics all agree on it. And it's taught on a collegiate level. And it's in books. And it's taught on a high school level. And it's in books. And it's taught to our children. What does all that have to do with anything that I'm saying right now? You're going to find out that a lot of things that the Kemetic community is pushing, they all agree to pretty much lie on history. They're very biased in their research and their scholarship. And I'm going to show you some examples of that tonight. All right, let's get started. Have you ever heard the Kemetic community say that everything that the Israelites have was plagiarized or stolen from Egypt? I'm sure that you've heard them say that before. First of all, let's examine that statement, right? In order for you to say that I stole something from you, the first thing that you have to prove is you have to prove that what is in my possession was originally yours. That you are the originator, you are the author, and the authenticator of said thing, whatever it is that you say that I took from you. The problem is academia does not agree that Egypt is the foundation of everything. In other words, there are some in the academic world that will tell you that Sumer was before Egypt, and that Egypt actually plagiarized a lot of their gods, and a lot of things that's in Egypt, they plagiarized those things from Sumer. So Egypt has yet to prove that anything originated with them. Therefore, you cannot accuse me of plagiarizing or stealing something from you when it's possible that you stole it from somebody else. So let's get that out the way right now, all right? But anyway, let's look at Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1 through 3, King James Bible, right? Leviticus 18, verse 1 through 3. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God, your power. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do." So the Most High commanded through Moses the Israelites not to do the things that we saw in Egypt. So why would the Israelite take Egyptian customs? We're strictly speaking about Egyptian customs. Why would the Israelites take Egyptian customs and bring them with them into the land of Canaan when the Most High expressly forbade that? Why don't they bring this scripture up? This is proof, according to the narrative of the Bible, the Israelites didn't take anything from Egypt as far as your customs, as far as your gods, as far as your laws. We didn't take those from Egypt according to the Bible. Reading on. "And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances." So the Canaanites had certain ordinances and laws in the land that we were going to. The Most High said he didn't want us to follow those customs either. That's why the Most High calls us a peculiar people. Because when you go into the Apocrypha, the Most High said he gave us peculiar laws. That's in the Apocrypha. The Most High gave us peculiar laws, laws that were different from the nations that surrounded us. And the Most High wanted us to keep those laws. That's what separated us from everybody else. So no, we did not plagiarize nothing from no damn Egypt when it comes to our customs and our laws. That is a lie. That is a myth. They cannot prove that. And by the way, let me say one last thing before I move on to the next slide. People have to understand the difference between parallels and plagiarism. And it seems to me that a lot of people in the conscious community purposefully convolute the two. There's a difference between parallels, meaning similarities between nations in certain customs, and outright plagiarism. In other words, you will have certain laws in Egypt. You will have certain laws that were even amongst the Canaanites and many of the other nations that surrounded Israel that were similar to some of the customs of the Israelites. You had some. So a parallel does not necessarily equate to plagiarism. You will find flood stories, accounts of the flood amongst all the nations all over the globe, as well as in the Bible. That's not proof that Moses and the Israelites plagiarized the story of a flood from previous society. These are parallels, not proof of plagiarism. All right, so we got to get that right. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, now here's an example of why the Most High told us that we shouldn't follow after the doings of the land of Egypt. Look at this dude, man. Look at this dude. He got his head and his dreads. Basically, somebody made it in the form of what's supposed to be an ankh, but to me it looks like a damn kettlebell. If you're not familiar with what a kettlebell is, let me show y'all real quick. His head looks like a daggone kettlebell. This is a kettlebell right here. See this? That's a kettlebell right here. This is a kettlebell. And this dude did his hair to look like a daggone kettlebell because he thinks that he's Egyptian. Why does he think he's Egyptian? Because he's following behind a lot of these pseudo scholars on YouTube and on Facebook that's not presenting you with any real information, just conjecture and basically a whole bunch of logical fallacies. Like I told Jabari when I saw him the other day. And by the way, I told Jabari in front of everybody that he is the king in the conscious community. He is the king of logical fallacies, which I'm about to get into in a second. Let's move on. All right. The entire Kemetic argument is one gigantic red herring. I'll give you a perfect example. When Reggie got up there, that was a red herring. What is a red herring? A red herring is cleverly missing the point to draw attention away from the argument. Now, back about 2 years ago when we had Kemet on trial, we had the same issues, all right? We went in there and we gave them a whole bunch of things from Egypt that they needed to explain. When Shaka got up there, his presentation was about his damn sidelock. He didn't address any of the accusations that we made. When Polite got up there, his presentation mainly was about going to Egypt. Then he gave us some outlandish research study that he did where they said that the ancient Kemetic families were not committing incest, which is a lie because they were committing incest. There's DNA tests that tell you that the ancient Kemetic families were committing incest. Now, the whole conscious community will always talk to you about science, 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 science. Well, DNA science tells you that they were committing incest. But because you don't want to accept it, now all of a sudden you don't accept science. You see what I'm saying? But even more importantly, he didn't address the accusations that were in the presentation that was given by brothers. What they did was a red herring and then ran away after the debate saying that they won without answering any goddamn questions, right? The same thing happened Saturday. When Reggie got up there, all right, Reggie was like the fourth or the fifth person to speak. You had Divine Prospect went up first, right? You had Brother Shaol that went up second, right? Then you had Hashar that went up third, right? And Reggie went up fourth. So you had three people prior to him presenting information about Kemet. He is supposed to be the top Kemetic researcher in the House of Consciousness. And when he got up there, he did not address anything that those brothers said. That is a red herring. What he did was he cleverly missed the point. He missed an opportunity to defend Kemet. He missed a golden opportunity to defend Kemet and got up there and started talking about the King James Bible and committed grave errors, Reggie. And I told you this that night. You committed grave errors. If you think those images, and I'm telling some of you Israelites too, because some of y'all don't research either. If you think those images on Google Images are the authentic images of the people that ruled Europe during the Dark Ages, you are sadly mistaken. I've already given 2 PowerPoint lectures on this. Reggie, you should have watched them. You should have watched them. Don't you know that Cromwell, when he came into power, destroyed all the authentic, 90+% of the authentic art in Europe was destroyed during the time of Cromwell, but you wouldn't know that history. So you got up there and said some dumb stuff, and the whole Kemetic community is giving you a daggone seal clap. And so, oh, Reggie did a good, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. What you did was you gave me ammunition for another presentation I'm going to do, not tonight, all right? But that whole thing that Reggie did, that was a red herring, all right? Then they tried to, the next day, right? Because there was some situations, as we spoke about earlier, about some unruliness that went on at the lecture. They tried to say that they won the lecture because brothers was out of order, not based on the information. They said they won because brothers was out of order. That's a red herring too, all right? And we got to separate the two. Did they answer the information that was presented satisfactorily? The answer is no. If they get up there and they start talking about something else, that is a red herring. In Israel, you have to learn the different degrees and types of argumentation that's out there. Let's move on. Here are some other types of what they call logical fallacies. Kemets attacks on the Bible are built on logical fallacies, one after the other. Straw man arguments, false cause, ad hominem attacks, appeals to authority, red herrings that we just saw, all right, and many, many others. These are all the different types of argumentation, basically, where you try to get away from a fact or you try to distract somebody from facts, okay? I won't really go through all these. You can look up these on your own. You see what I'm saying? You can look these up on your own. But these are different types of attacks that they use. And remember, Jabari tells everybody openly, y'all got to listen when a man talks. Jabari tells everybody openly he is a trained debater. He was trained to do that. So you have to understand when somebody is a trained debater, they don't just teach you to stick to the facts in debates. They also teach you how to get yourself out of a corner if you're cornered on something. They teach you different things, different tactics like that. All right? They teach you how to do these things. You know who was good at that? Dr. York. Dr. York is real good at that. If you talk to some of his students, they do the same thing, the same ad hominem attacks. They attack the Bible, attack Islam, attack everything. The minute you start asking these Dr. York flunkies about stuff in their holy tablets, like Prince York, when I asked him about his father's holy tablets, what did he do? He didn't want to answer the question. Oh yeah, he'll come on Saneter's platform and talk about the Bible all day and attack the Bible all day, but don't start asking them about their doctrine because then they're going to run. They're going to run. They only want to attack the Bible, and they use all these different types of logical fallacies to do so. The problem is that brothers and sisters, we've allowed them to do this for a long time, and we have to stop. When you ask somebody something about, when they ask us something about the Bible, we're on the hook to answer them. So when we ask them something about Kemet, they're on the hook to answer. Don't let Reggie ask you about Abraham when you ask him something about Egypt, because that's what he's going to do. You're going to ask him something about Egypt, and he's going to talk, well, what about Abraham? What about Moses? That's a red herring. Don't allow it to go down, Israel, all right? Let's move on. All right. Now we're going to look at our brother Jabari. This is a brief clip of him from Saturday, right? Now I want you to pay attention, right? Jabari calls David, King David of the Bible, Jabari called David's dowry, he said it was bizarre, right? So let's watch this and let's see what happens. Let's listen to him.
Because I want to bring you the information. My job is not to empower myself financially from it. My job is to get us to understand who we are so we understand what we have to do. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. Hold on. By the way, some of you want to talk about the henanu, the penis, and strange things in ancient Kemet. All you gotta know, if you want to see strange things, all you need to know is that David collects 200 foreskins as a dowry. Listen. Look at Deuteronomy 10:16 and 1 Samuel 18:25 to 27. I said he collects 200 foreskins as a dowry for a wife. This is David, King David. This is in your... He does it. He does it. I didn't say he said that. I didn't say he did it. It's a dowry. But I want you to understand that if you want to see something bizarre, read your own book first.
Right. So Jabari said that that's bizarre, right? That David collecting the 200 foreskins is bizarre. So if that's bizarre, right, then he'll have to explain this right here, okay? Give me a second. You'll have to explain this right here. I want y'all to be able to see the slide. Just give me a second. So I'm going to try to minimize it a little bit so y'all can see it. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, let's see if y'all can see it now. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. This is the smiting of the enemies scenes in the mortuary temple. But matter of fact, you know what? Let me do something, right? Watch this, right? You see this image right here? You see this image right here? Those are phalluses. This is on the walls of Egypt. Those are phalluses. Those are penises that were collected. They were severed from Egypt's enemies. They were severed and cut off and brought back to Egypt. Now, Jabari just told us that that's bizarre, but we're seeing this on the wall in Egypt. So if that's bizarre, what the hell is this? Let's go back. Let's read about it. The smiting of the enemies, scenes in the mortuary temple of Ramses III. This is the 18th dynasty. Okay? This is the 18th dynasty. So guess what? You can't blame this on the Greeks because that's what these dudes are going to do. Oh, that wasn't us. That was the white man. Nope. This is that Ramses III is the 18th dynasty. All right? So let's be clear on this. This is the Egyptians themselves. The smiting of the enemies, scenes in the mortuary temple of Ramses III at Medinet Habu Oriental Studies Journal of Oriental and Ancient History, Volume 1, the Oriental Institute. From the Oriental Institute, okay? The military release starts with Ramses III's Nubian campaign, badly damaged, to be followed by the ones regarding the conflict of year 5, circa 1177 BC, with the Libyans, First Libyan War. The images of the pharaoh of great dimensions wearing his Kefresh crown in his chariot emerges like a proud and confident conqueror aided by the omnipresent Amun, whose banners with the ram's head mark the highlighted presence. By the order and arrangement, the Egyptian armies and mercenaries and cavalry associated to the Egyptians contrast with the enemies defeated and captured, who appear figured in the most varied and contorted positions. Order, aka Ma'at, and chaos, Isfet, and its representatives are thus clearly prefigured according to the Egyptian worldview on the outside military reliefs of Medinet Habu. Here we go. The existential devaluation of enemy forces receives the assistance of an additional and significant reason in the iconograph treatment. The counting of cut off right hands and genital scenes. Let me point out for y'all. The counting of cut off right hands and genital scenes. So they showed you on the wall in Egypt that they cut off genitals. Here it is again. I thought Jabari said it was bizarre in the Bible. What is this? Jabari, hello? Let's go back. I ain't finished. Result of a diligent action of zealous army scribes who proceeded in rigorous counting. So guess what? They didn't just cut off the men's genitals, they counted them too. How about that? All right? In rigorous counting, we see piles of enemy hands cut off. 38,000, according to the numerical data, surely exaggerated, provided by the inscriptions, and of phalluses, 25,000. So David collected, listen good. So David collected 200, right, foreskins for his dowry. This guy shows you a monument where there's 25,000 phalluses that were cut off and counted. So Jabari, if the Bible is bizarre, then what do you call Egypt? You got to stop with that biased scholarship. Stop it. All right? Reading on. Which we can give us ideas of the Libyan force in confrontation with Ramses III, well superior to the one he faced by Merneptah about 30 years earlier. At the same time as they witnessed the intentional barbarous costume of enemies' mutilation, thus eternally weakened and debased, absolutely prevented of any attempt to recognize themselves militarily or ethnically. The trophies of war, did y'all hear that? Those phalluses, those genitals were trophies of war. Trophies of war. Thus represented by the Egyptians, symbolized at the hands severing was a practice more common than cutting the penises off. But they did cut penises off, right? So this was a symbol of a war trophy in ancient times. It's the same thing David did. It's the same thing he did. So if it's bizarre for David, it's bizarre here. It's either or. Y'all can't have it both ways. Jabari, you got to explain this. All right? Reading on. The information related to the attacks of Merneptah's reign, 1213, circa 1213 to 1203, came to us through a long list from the temple of Karnak, from Athribis stele, from the fragment of the Cairo column, and from the famous Israel stele from the year 5 of Merneptah, dating from circa 1231 or 1207 BC, conform the adopted chronologies. All the texts were translated by Breasted 1906 and Kitchen 1972. Those are white men. Those are white men. So when they tell you about the Bible being translated by white people, which is a lie, but let's just say it was true, Breasted and Kitchen, these are white boys. White boys. All right? Let's move on. This information can be compared with the ones reporting the same event in the second open air court, where the values mentioned are respectively 3,000 hands and 3,000 phalluses. Ladies and gentlemen, this is from Oriental and Ancient History, Volume 1 from the Oriental Institute. They cannot get around this, all right? And this is the relief itself. And these are the severed phalluses and them counting it. So again, Jabari, you called David Bizzare. So I guess that makes your Kemetic people that you love so much, I guess y'all are bizarre too. Let's move on. Let's move on. And then what about this, right? From the tomb of Ptahhotep, the 5th dynasty, you see youth wrestling naked. What's up with this? You guys definitely can't blame this on the Greeks. That's the 5th dynasty. You guys was wrestling on the wall butt naked. Because you like to say, oh, the Greeks brought all that stuff into Egypt. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. The Egyptians were freaks and perverted anyway. That's why we see all that crap on your damn walls. That's why we see one of your daggone netters giving himself autofellatio, because they were freaks. I'm talking about the ancient Egyptians. Let's keep it a stack. Let's keep it a stack. Let's stop with the whole romantic nonsense. It's lies. Stop lying. All right? Let's move on. All right. Now, if you're on Facebook, right? I'm going to go into a little bit of a different topic now. If you're on Facebook, you might have come across these groups, right? These groups are pseudo-central on Facebook. This is where a lot of the Kemetic brothers and sisters be. They be in these groups. You can see they have lots of members, 34,000 for this one, 36,000 for this one, almost 20,000 for this one. And all these dudes do is they go in these groups and they post meme after meme after meme after meme that they don't research. And what's happening is that you have a lot of people that get influenced by meme scholarship. Instead of going and doing research and reading for themselves, they read and believe meme scholarship. Let me give you a couple examples of what's going on in these groups and why I call them pseudo-central. All right? Check this out, right? This is what's passed off as knowledge in these groups. Here is a meme, right? And here's what it says, right? It says on the right, it says Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, according to the stories, got their knowledge in Egypt, right? So why would they not tell you to go there to get your knowledge from the source? First of all, you guys cannot prove Egypt is the source. Like I said, half of academia says Sumer was before Egypt. That's first of all. Second of all, you mentioned Moses getting knowledge in Egypt. That's true. But let me tell you where you got that from. You got that from the book of Acts chapter 7, verse 22. But I'm going to show you guys that you don't know the Bible. Why don't you give the people all the information, not just half? Not just half. Watch this. Here's your meme again. Here's what the scripture says, right? What the text actually says. They quote Acts 7:22. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds. So they have that here. Moses was learned in all the ways of the Egyptians. Moses got his knowledge from Egypt. That's true. That's Acts 7, verse 22. But here's the point that you meme posters and you meme scholars are missing. You know nothing about Hebrews chapter 11, verse 23 to 27. This is what the Bible also says. By faith, verse 23, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandments. Verse 24, by faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. So here's my question to you. Yes, Moses was learned in all the ways of the Egyptians, but why did he reject it if it was so great? If it was so powerful, if it was so profound, why did he refuse to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. You know why? Because the Egyptian knowledge was BS, man. It was BS. That's why. So if you're going to make a meme, tell the whole story. Yes, Moses was raised in the house of Pharaoh. Yes, Moses had all the wisdom of Egypt, and he rejected it. You got to tell the whole story. Let's read on. Verse 25. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasure of Egypt. So Moses considered the reproach of Christ greater riches than all the treasures of Egypt. So Moses wasn't down with that whole Egyptian thing. He rejected it. So the next time you make a meme, make sure that you tell the whole story. Let's move on. Here's another meme that they pass around. That's passed around. This is what I meant when I said before, you have to understand the difference between parallels and plagiarism. So what's going on is that they're saying that we stole the stories of Jesus from the story of Horus. Okay? That's what they say. And there was a whole documentary that was put together called the Zeitgeist. But I guess the conscious community never got the memo that Zeitgeist was refuted terribly. I mean, when I said it was smashed, it got smashed. So what they do is they create a meme like this, right? And this is what they do. They say the story of Jesus was written 2,000 years ago. The story of Horus was written down 5,000 years ago. So what they're implying, what's implied is that the story of Jesus was taken from the story of Horus. Born of a Virgin Mary. Born of a Virgin Mary. This right here shows, first of all, that you pseudo scholars, you don't know the scriptures. When the scriptures say that Mary was a virgin, it means that she was a woman of marriageable age. It does not mean that Joseph didn't physically lay with her. Y'all don't know the scriptures. Then you say birthday is celebrated on December 25th, and they have that Horus's birthday is celebrated on December 25th. Question, where in the Bible, in the narrative, does it say that Christ's birthday is December 25th? Where's that? And I see this meme in all those daggone pseudo Facebook groups. I see this meme in all them groups. Okay? North Star led wise men to him when he was born. Eastern Star led 3 wise men to him when he was born. I'm talking about Horus, right? Taken to Egypt to escape the wrath of Herod. Taken to Egypt to escape the wrath of Typhoon. Taught in the temple as a child. Horus taught in the temple as a child. So let's read one more. Baptized by John the Baptist at 30. Horus was baptized by Anpu the baptizer at 30. Here's my question, because I'm not going to go through this whole meme. When they try to present this meme to you, or they try to tell you that Christ, the story of Jesus, the Christ, was stolen from the story of Horus, here's how you put them in a trick bag. Ask them to substantiate for you either the stela or the papyrus or what wall in Egypt say that Heru or Horus was taught in the temple as a child. I want to see that. I want to see what papyrus or stela says that. What papyrus or stela says that Heru was baptized by Anpu at age 30? What papyrus, stela, or wall says that in Egypt? What papyrus or wall says that Heru had 12 disciples like Christ? Where's that in Egypt? Where is it? This is how you catch them. I've asked them this before, and you get nothing but crickets. Because it's BS. It's made up. All right? Let's move on. And so what I did was somebody took the meme and they actually debunked it themselves and reposted it. So I just took it and I just took it and showed y'all. Y'all can look into this stuff yourself. The zeitgeist was refuted. So this is all nonsense. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on. All right. Now, Kemet loves white PhDs who attack the Bible. They love Israel Finkelstein. They love Davies and all the rest of those guys that are what we call biblical minimalists that try to basically say the people in the Bible never existed, right? They try to say stuff like that, which I kind of want to touch on a little bit, but I'm going to do that another time for the sake of brevity. They love white PhDs. My question is, do you love white PhDs who attack Egypt? That's the question, because we got to be fair and balanced, right? So if you accept white academia's conclusions concerning the Bible, concerning Moses, concerning David, concerning the Exodus, you listen to Jabari, he loved white scholars when it comes to the Bible. Garfield loves white scholars when it comes to the Bible. They all do. Shaka, forget about it. He loves the white man when it comes to white people attacking the Bible. Okay, so now it's only right that I appeal to white academia concerning Kemet. It's only right. It's only right. So here we have Dr. Carolyn Graves Brown. I'm going to appeal to a scholar to find out her take on certain things that were going on in Egypt. Who is she? She is the curator of the Egypt Center, okay, at Swanessa University in the United Kingdom. Also, when you do research about her, she's also been the curator of 2 museums at different points in her life. So she is an expert in the field of Kemet. The same way you guys say that Israel Finkelstein is an expert, and you accept every word that proceeds out of his mouth. So I'm going to accept whatever it is that she says about Egypt. Let's see, right? This is from her book. By the way, let me go back. She wrote a book called Dancing with Hathor. This is the book, right? You can actually get this online. I actually have it, all right? This is from page 54 in the book. Let me just come out of it for a second. Give me a second. Let me come out of it for a second. Give me 1 second, y'all. I want to make sure that y'all can see everything. I don't want there to be any confusion, right? Make sure y'all can see everything. 1 second, y'all. There we go. Good. All right, let's go. There we go. Okay, now, okay, I have enough of the slide where y'all can see it. Okay, so this is what she said on page 54. The title says, "After the doings of the land of Egypt shall ye not do." Check this out, right? In our society, I'm talking about America, as wicked as America is, in our society, girls under the age of 16 or even 18 are still considered to be children. That is not the case in many other contemporary societies. Elsewhere, the onset of menarche or marriage may herald womanhood. A passage from the Instructions of Ani, urging a man to take a wife and to teach her to be a human, suggests that women were only considered fully grown up once they married. Both marriage and menarche could well have taken place when the individual was around, how old does that say right there? 12. 12. And she's an expert. She's an expert. Okay. 12 years old. Thus, we should not be shocked by the sexualization. See that word? Sexualization of adolescents in ancient Egypt. Let's read on. The genre of sexualized adolescence is particularly known in Egypt from the late 18th dynasty, which is a native Egyptian dynasty. Not the white man and not the Greeks. Let's be clear. Ritual spoons, also known as cosmetic spoons. Just so y'all know, it says ritual spoons here. When you look it up, they're also called cosmetic spoons. Ritual spoons are shaped like youthful swimming females. Ritual spoons and ring Jezebels show adolescent girls playing the lute. That's what you have right here. This is what you have right here. This is an adolescent girl, like a 12-year-old girl playing the lute, right? Their forms are also used as handles or mirrors, and they appear as servant girls in tomb chapels. All these girls are what? Nude, or almost nude, and wear the heavy wigs associated with the erotic. These are 12-year-old girls that are being sexualized in ancient Egypt. Is that Ma'at? Is that Ma'at? You guys have to answer for this. You always got something to say about the Bible. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, you sexualized 12-year-old girls. Maybe that's the reason why half the conscious community didn't come out when Saneter had that thing about Africa Bambaataa out there. Maybe that's part of the reason why. Because you know in ancient Kemetic culture, that's what you did. And it's not far-fetched or hard to believe. Do you know why? Because what was the life expectancy in ancient Egypt? These people, they were dropping dead like before they were 40 years old. They were dropping dead before they were 40 years old with a mouthful of rotten teeth. But you guys say that you introduced medicine to the world. And you're always talking about the goddamn medical papyruses that come from Kemet. Okay, then why the hell were you dropping dead before 40 years old? That's the reason why you were marrying 12-year-old girls. You were doing it because your life expectancy was short. This is your ancient Kemet that you love so much, but you don't mention, but you want to talk about the Bible. Now, my question is this. Would you sleep with a 12-year-old girl now? Would you? Of course you wouldn't in this society because you know it's wrong. Well, if it's wrong now, it was wrong then. Think about if you have a daughter. Think about if you have a daughter. Would you want a grown behind man touching your 12-year-old daughter? That's what they was doing in Egypt. That's what they were doing in Egypt. Okay? That's enough. Let's move on. This is from another book, another author, because you might say, well, you don't accept what she said. Even though she has a doctorate, even though she's a museum, was a curator at 2 museums in Egypt, even though she has a high position at the Egypt Center in the university, some of you pseudo Negroes that have no degrees are going to tell her she don't know what she's talking about because you don't like what she's talking about, but you damn love Israel Finkelstein. Nope. Well, if you like white academia when it comes to the Bible, I like white academia that says stuff like this. This is page 12 from a book called Ancient Egypt by Brian Williams. It says, women certainly married when they were young. It was not unusual for girls in ancient Egypt to marry at what age? 12. Our law says in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. 12 years old. That was partly because the life expectancy of women was lower than that of men. The sole purpose for marriage of the Egyptians was to produce children. Egyptian medicine was advanced for its time, even though y'all were dropping dead early, but giving birth was risky, and many young women died as a result of giving birth. So this is what y'all were doing in ancient Kemet. All right, let's move on. Now let's go to this. Let's do this. Saneter, I gotta talk to you too. I have to talk to you a little bit, right? You keep asking this question about where's the bodies? Matter of fact, let me just play the video for you.
Many times Jabari said there's powerful information in the Bible. He would go in there and get some powerful information. See? So we don't...
My ancestors don't exist.
Those are not your ancestors. Come on, man. You a nigga out of Africa, brother.
Again, it's until like the brother, I forget, Hezekiah. Y'all say we ain't shit. We ain't exist. We ain't never do nothing and all that.
Correction. We don't say y'all ain't shit. We trying to get you back on the right path. We trying to get you back on the right path of your true ancestors, brother. Not no spooky stuff. Okay, all right. Now let me ask you this. Being that you're asking all these questions, sorry about that.
That I want answers to.
Let me ask you this question. Where are the bodies of all these prophets that you can't find nowhere? Where's Moses? Where's Aaron? Where's Jesus? I mean, I could go on and on and on. Where are the bodies, brother?
All right, so now that's a fair question, right? So here's what we have. What we have now is this thing that if you don't have a body, right, because you don't have a body, therefore somebody didn't exist. This is what they're pushing. This is the narrative that Saneter pushes and Jabari pushes it too. So now we have to be fair. If you're saying that nobody and no grave equates to somebody not existing, I say the same has to be true for ancient Kemet. Let's go. Let's go. All right. There's a lot of things, king's list in Egypt, right? And the king's list don't agree with each other. You have a king's list at Abydos, you have a king's list at Karnak, you have a Saqqara king's list, and you have a Turin's king's list. These king's lists don't agree with each other. I want to be clear on that. They don't agree with each other, and there are others, and they don't agree with each other at all. But anyway, this particular cartouche is from the king's list at Abydos. All right, this is the cartouche of a pharaoh named Merenhor. He ruled during the 7th dynasty of Egypt. See what my question is right there is? Saneter, if you're asking me for bodies of the prophets to prove they existed, I have to now return the favor and ask you, where's the body of Merenhor? Where's he buried? Don't you know that they don't know nothing about this guy? The only thing that they know about Merenhor is that his cartouche is on the wall at Abydos. You don't have a body. You don't have a grave. You have no papyruses that tell you when he was born, what he did while he was alive, who he married, did he have children? None of that stuff. You have no evidence of him existing on earth except for this picture that's on a wall at Abydos. That's all you have. And you tell me that going in the Bible and reading about Moses and reading about David and reading about Solomon and reading about all of our foreparents, you tell me just because we see their name in the Bible is not proof that they existed. I'm saying to you, Just because I see somebody's name up on a wall in Egypt, if you don't have a body, if you don't have a grave, if you can't tell me nothing about this guy, guess what? He didn't exist. See how easy that is? Let's go. There's more. There's more. Now, here's some other pharaohs, right? You have all of Dynasty 1. All the pharaohs of Dynasty 1 have never been found, so they didn't exist. All the pharaohs of Dynasty 2 have never been found. No bodies, nothing. So guess what? According to you, they didn't exist. Then you got Seneferu. Where's his body? They've never found it. Khufu. Never found him. And he's really important in Egypt. Where's his body? Where's his body? Guess he never existed. Khafre. They dug up what they thought was his remains and did a test on it and found out it was the bones of a bull. Where's his body? Well, I don't know, but I guess he didn't exist. All right. Then you have Menkaure from the dynasty number 4. They found an empty coffin with his name inscribed on it, but no body. So he didn't exist. Dynasty 14 through 16. No bodies found. None. Where's the body? Remember Hatshepsut? Hatshepsut, right? Who Thutmose tried to erase her images and her memory out of Egypt. He tried to erase that. They've never found her body. So maybe she didn't exist either. You see how easy it is to turn the table on you guys with that foolishness that y'all talk about? It's real easy. It's not hard, okay? Ramses V, where's his body? And this is an abbreviated list. There's so many. As a matter of fact, I'll go on to tell you that the majority of your pharaohs have never been found. The majority of them. All right? So it's a stupid argument. Stop asking us that. Where's the body? Where are y'all bodies? Let's move on. Let's move on. This is another video. This is the first time that I was on Saneter's channel. Watch this. Watch.
Let me ask you this, brother. The books dealing with the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, Paul, Jacob, Jesus. These were all great men, would you say?
I would say.
How come we have not found any body of any of these people yet? How come you can't find none of the tombstones of these people yet? But you can go back into Egypt, into Africa, and find the mummy of Ramesses, thousands of years older than Michael, Mark, Luke, and John, and Matthews. How come you can't find none of the people there? Did they really exist, brother? How can you prove to us that these were real people?
Okay, that's an excellent question, Saneter. Let's start with Jesus, right? Now, we all know that the accounts of Tacitus, and we know the accounts of Josephus, and those are credible historians. But I'm going to throw another name in there. What about Celsus? How many brothers out there know about Celsus? C-E-L-S-U-S. That's another accredited historian. And there are many, many others that testify to the existence of Christ. And they were more approximate or more in proximity to the time.
And I want to stop there for a second. I mentioned Celsus. Now, the reason why I'm stopping it is because Celsus was not a Christian. He was not a Christian. Because what they like to do is say, oh, those guys were all Christians. They were believers. That's why they said Christ existed. No, Celsus wasn't. He wasn't. He's a credible historian. All right, that was more in proximity, like I said, to the time that Christ existed. And he don't say Christ was a myth. As a matter of fact, the historians of that time, none of them say that Christ was a myth. That's a modern philosophy, period. Let's go.
When Christ existed, so they would know more then than we would know today, because thousands of years removed from that time, the Roman Catholic Church and the so-called white man has gone around the earth and pillaged and destroyed everything. And what he has not pillaged and what he has not destroyed is sitting at the bottom of the Vatican, sitting at the bottom of Oxford University and all these different places. They're hiding a lot of information that they have found. That's the first part of that. And again, I know this is something that's going to come up in the debate, so I'm only saying but so much. My second thing on that is this, right? Everybody talks about how many times Kemet has been invaded. How many times Kemet has been invaded by outside nations as well as the so-called white man? But my question is this: which nation has been invaded more, Kemet or Israel? Which nation has been pillaged more, Kemet or Israel? Now let's look at Kemet, right? How much damage did the so-called white man do to Kemet in all the times that he's pillaged Kemet? He's done tremendous damage. Well, the land of Israel has been invaded approximately about 50 times. That's about 3 to 4 times more times than Kemet has been invaded. So what happened to all the stuff over there? The so-called white man has destroyed that thing, man. Destroyed it. Every time you read the scriptures where they invade, what did they do? They destroyed the temple, right? They destroyed the temple. They would go in there, they would loot, they would pillage, they would tear down, and all that stuff, man. But I am answering your question.
As far as proving that these men existed, where's their body at? How come no one never found their bodies?
Well, like I said, the land has been destroyed and pillaged many times. When the land is destroyed and pillaged and tombstones are removed, first of all, when the white man went to Kemet, he was looking for bodies, right? He didn't know where he was looking. He spent years and years trying to figure out where this pyramid was, where this body could possibly be buried, where this body could possibly be buried. And even to this day, they're still looking for things because they don't know, because it's been invaded and destroyed so many times. Go ahead.
So are you telling me that your God of the Bible is not strong enough to keep them bodies reserved?
You know why? Because their bodies, I think the Most High is great. Well,
let me say this before I go any further, right? Israel didn't have a custom of preserving bodies. So it's really, it's not even a good question. Israel did not have a system of preserving bodies. Even Egypt itself didn't have a system of preserving bodies at first. That's why, like I said a few minutes ago, Dynasty number 1 and Dynasty number 2, you don't have any bodies because they wasn't preserving bodies back then. You don't have bodies of the kings up and down the Nile Valley, of all the other kingdoms that existed. You're not going to find that because not everybody practiced preserving bodies. So stop it. Come on, man. It doesn't make sense. If Israel did have the same custom as Kemet, it would be a good question, but we didn't. So it's not a good question. But anyway, I'm getting to a point right here because I want to show y'all something.
Virtue of the fact that we haven't found the bodies for one reason, because the bodies of our prophets and our kings and our great men are not laying in the British Museum and in the Cairo Museum and here in America, and the so-called white man is not taking the corpses and crushing the bones up and drinking it and eating it and doing all types of other disgusting things that he does with the bodies of the pharaohs. So I think the Most High is great for that, man. Personally, that's my personal opinion. I don't speak for nobody else.
Now, the Kemetic community, they laughed at me when I said that I thank the Most High that they never dug up any bodies of the prophets, right? For all the reasons that I just stated. But let me show y'all, because I was outside, I couldn't show y'all. Let me show y'all. Watch this. This is from the Smithsonian. Let me come out, make this a little smaller so y'all can see it. Make this a little smaller. Bear with me 1 second. Let me make this a little smaller. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. Let's go. All right, it's enough of this so that you guys can see it. This is from the Smithsonian. All right, this is the history that they don't tell you. Right, when I said I thank the Most High that they didn't find the bodies of the prophets, here's an example of why. This is from the second paragraph of this article on the Smithsonian. All right, Noble's new book, Medical Cannibalism in Early Modern English Literature and Culture, and another by Richard Sugg of England, University of Durham, Mummies, Cannibals, and Vampires, The History of Corpse Medicine from the Renaissance to the Victorians, and I have this book, right, reveal that for several hundred years, peaking in the 16th and 17th centuries, many Europeans, including royalty, priests, and scientists, routinely ingested remedies containing human bones, blood, and fat as medicine from everything from everything from headaches to epilepsy. There were a few vocal opponents of the practices, even though cannibalism in the newly explored America was reviled as a mark of savagery. Mummies were stolen from Egyptian tombs, and skulls were taken from Irish burial sites. Gravediggers robbed and sold body parts. So they were taking the mummies from ancient Egypt and they were crushing them down into grinding them down like into powder and putting them in medicine and selling them on the market for medicine. This is what they were doing. They were going into Egypt and desecrating the graves of your ancestors that you are so proud that they're able to dig up, and they were grinding them into powder and putting them into medicine and taking them. That's what they're doing to what you call your forefathers. But I thank the Most High that they can't do that to my forefathers, because my forefathers did not have a custom of mummifying bodies, so no, they have not found the bodies of our pharaohs, of our prophets. and our kings. And I thank the Most High for that, because look what they're doing to yours. Look what they were doing to yours. Making medicine out of them. Okay? That's a jar from the 16th century. A medicine jar. See the name on it? Mumia. They also made incense out of some of your mummies. I bet you didn't know that. They would grind some of the mummies into powder and make incense out of it and burn them. So I'm talking about the Europeans. It was a custom. This is what they were doing to your mummies that you brag about. Okay? This is what they were doing. And they also will charge you money to go into a museum to see your mummies and your artifacts and all that stuff like that. Charge you money. You guys always bragging, oh, I went to Kemet, I went to Kemet. You went to Kemet and you was a tourist. The white man and the Arabs control Kemet. You ain't controlling that. You're a tourist. That's all you are. That's it. All right? So you guys have a lot of stuff that you need to answer. I don't need to even go any further because it's getting late. I don't want to go on and on and on. I'm going to continue this presentation on my channel, Priest Danyaahla Uncut. So y'all could go ahead and subscribe to that. I'm going to continue this presentation. I'm going to give the presentation again, and I'm going to continue with the rest of the slides. But I just wanted to show y'all that y'all have no business talking about the Bible. Y'all have a lot of stuff in Egypt that y'all need to take care of first, man. I didn't even go into the incest yet. I didn't even go into the fact that you had Nisuts that were breaking Ma'at every time you turned around. Every time you turn around, I'm talking about the Egyptian pharaohs, they were totally against what you call Ma'at. Everything that they were doing, the wars they fought, the things that they did to their own people, the things that they did to each other, they were in violation of Ma'at all throughout Egypt. So all that stuff is garbage, all right? With that, I say shalom. I'm going to go back to the regular presentation.